All right, Chillcast MMA. I'm here with Austin Brody of MMAPanic. It's Monday, January 6th. Still slow times in MMA. We all know everyone's looking forward to UFC 246. Still got a little bit of time. So just wanted to talk about there's always little stuff going on. We can just sort of bounce around and talk about some of that. We got Khabib said this, Mike Perry did that. So there's just a lot of little stuff going on in the world of MMA. So Austin, what's going on, and I guess what do you want to get to first?
Oh, I don't know. It's like you said. It's been a very slow time in the MMA world. I got nothing off the top of my brain. What about you?
Nah, it's kind of slow. Like I said, there's a lot of little stuff going on. So for me, one of the things, I guess the hottest thing, just to go to show how slow it is, but to me, the hottest thing, I guess, is this whole Donald Cerrone. The Donald Cerrone being left out of the ESPN ad they played, and it was during that was the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills game, and I was watching the game, and
Mm-hmm.
that just completely caught me off guard that they did that, and then for Dana White to come out and say the level of disrespect shown to Cowboy is unbelievable. It's like, Dana, you do have this thing. It's called creative control, and I know that you don't have a lot of it with ESPN, but I know you have some of it. You have enough to where Ariel Helwani doesn't do any of your official stuff. Like, you have enough to want to keep him separated from the mix, but you don't have enough to get Donald Cerrone incorporated into a 15-second spot that you know is going to play during the. It's just, come on, man. Like, so for me, that was just the one thing where I'm like, right, that kind of ticked me a little bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was watching too, and I seen it. I wasn't surprised, but I was like, maybe we're gonna see. Maybe the next commercial break we'll see one that's just Cowboy Cerrone, and that's how they'll kind of like market it that way. But no, it was the opposite. And then the game later on, I seen the commercial again, the Patriot Titan game. So yeah, it's wild. I mean, they will never learn their lesson on picking a fighter before a fight. They did it with Amanda Nunes, Ronda Rousey, and with a million other fighters. They know that Conor's a big star. I'm sure ESPN wanted to make a big deal about his first fight on ESPN, so they chose to do that. But I mean, it's beyond it's beyond disrespectful. I mean, if the Super Bowl this year, if they just promoted one team who's going to be in the Super Bowl, I mean, that would everyone would be like, "What are you doing? Like that's crazy." But
They did. That not to cut you off, but they did. When the NFL first released the Wild Card Weekend video, the Eagles and the Vikings weren't in the ad, and everyone lost their mess over it on Twitter. And sure enough, when the NFL aired the official one a couple days later on TV, both teams were incorporated in. Granted, people had a sort of slight jab, like, ha ha ha, you guys incorporate them at the last second, but at least they were savvy enough to do that. The UFC just, they don't care. They don't care.
yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like I didn't even know that happened. That's great. That's just beyond dumb because the Vikings ended up winning and going on to the next round. So yeah, it just if we've learned anything about like sports, you don't know who's going to win until it happens. So you don't. It makes no sense to just promote one guy. I know it could. I'm not even saying you know what it is Connor's return. And that's a big deal, and Cowboy fights a lot, so I understand that. So maybe if it's a really McGregor centric commercial, like has shown a lot of him, but it also shows the merits of Cowboy and what he's doing. But to not even show the face of the guy he's fighting, who's a ranked lightweight, who has the most wins in UFC history, I mean that's ridiculous.
Sometimes I check in and see what Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp will say, and I got mad at them because they said Tenshin Nasukawa, when it was announced that he was fighting Floyd Mayweather, they couldn't even get it. They didn't even try to mention his name. They referred to him as a cab driver, like a can. They just openly referred to him as that. And I'm like, the reason why they do that is because PR, things like that. It's just not known, so it's easy to just sit up there in your high chair and just be like, "Oh, he's fighting some unknown dude," and it just feels like with this, force the same thing. So when people are like, "Oh, who's McGregor fighting?" Which is what everyone says. That's the first question people say once you're like, "Oh, so and so's about to fight." They're like, "Oh, who's he fighting?" And when people see the ad and you don't even show the other guy in it, that you already put the perception out there that they're not on the same level, even if we know that's not the case. Like that just seems like an easy misstep. Like that just seems like something you wouldn't do. I don't know.
And, and like you said earlier, this is right after Dana White comes out in an interview and says he can't believe how disrespectful the media and the fans have been to to Cowboy Cerrone and his skills. This is like right after that, and then he puts out a commercial that's literally doesn't even say who Connor's fighting. It just says Connor's coming back to ESPN.
Like if that doesn't say it all, like if that just doesn't let you know what the state of affairs is, it's like he's coming back to ESPN. It's like, okay, guys, I whatever, and it's just what like just to switch it up a little bit to try and take the tension out of the convo for a quick second. What do you think of what went down this wild card weekend? I might as well just air my little mini grievances with these damn Eagles. These Eagles, they do it to me every single year. It's like the bowl. Yes, they got us the bowl a couple years ago, and then the guy that got us the bowl, they took Carson Wentz over him, and then he gets his head dribbled off the turf. I'm trying to fill up a cup of soda. I come back. There's a 40-year-old ex ESPN analyst throwing passes now. They're talking about, one of the guys that you see blocking tackles, he might end up having to be the next guy under center if something happens to McCown or if he keeps throwing bricks out there. So as far as Philly is concerned, very depressing stuff. But what do you think about the wild card weekend? You said you watched it, but any takeaways from it?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Rams fan, and we went from going to the Super Bowl to not even making the playoffs, so that was devastating. But the wild card was fun, dude. We seen, the mighty Patriots get beat by basically Derrick Henry by one guy. The Texans won their game. They had a tough overtime. There was two overtime games: the Texas game and then the Minnesota game. Minnesota upset the Saints. That was a cool one. And then, it sucks for your Eagles, but as soon as I seen Josh McCown, and I was like, okay, I stopped watching. I was like, this game's all but over now. There's no way Josh McCown beats Russell Wilson. So, but yeah, it was a fun wild card week. I think this is going to be some of the better playoff games we've had in the NFL in like the last 10 years at least. I mean, because that was a wild card round. Now that we're getting the divisional finals or whatever it is, these are going to be some pretty dope games coming up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next round of games. For me, the one I'm looking forward to the most has to be the Ravens taking on who is that? They got the Titans, right? Yeah,
Yep.
to me that's one. Not just because Lamar Jackson. I just want to see, can he actually take it all the way? Is he truly gonna just morph into this unbelievable, unstoppable quarterback? And then it's sort of funny because we all know what happens if that. I guess the NFL, just like MMA in a sense, is a little bit copycat. So that would be funny. But I guess since I already done put it out there that that's my Super Bowl pick. What's your Super Bowl pick? Who you got taking it all?
I think I'm going with the Chiefs. I think they were close last year. They got their quarterback Patrick Mahomes to me is the greatest player I've ever seen. I know it's early, but dude, he's incredible the stuff he can do. And their defense is starting to come along. At the end of the season, they really pick up their stride and they started to help out. So I think that's going to be a tough team to get past. If Baltimore wins and it's them versus Baltimore, that's going to be an awesome conference final. But I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Look, I feel no gripes about it. I'm happy we don't have to see the Patriots again. Ever since I was a kid, it's like every other year we had to watch, like, just got force fed the Patriots. Not force fed because they won, but nonetheless, it's like, you guys, I'll take this as payment for you guys recording the Bengals bench or sideline or whatever. But I guess on the NFC side of things, I guess I'm leaning towards the Packers. I'm kind of feeling the Packers. I know Aaron Rodgers just definitely isn't his best year, but I do feel like he's a little bit more bought in. Their defense got a little bit of questions, but I do think 2 minutes. Aaron Rodgers has the ball in his hand. I think he'll make. He certainly won't lose the game. So I guess I'm just gonna rest my head on that. But yeah, ultimately, I just feel like the Ravens are gonna take it all, and the Chiefs. I guess it's because I saw Carson Wentz go out, but I just hope Patrick Mahomes is actually 100%. I know
Yeah.
he's been, yeah, but because that's my only worry about that. But um, and again, for anyone listening, we're not sitting here as some sort of NFL experts. We're just sort of bantering about. But I guess to try and transition back to MMA. And again, you can find me on Twitter at Nixon_speaks. You can find Austin at MMAPanic. But for me, I guess another little topic that's been going on is, I mean, it's not really a topic, but just sort of thinking about the media and stuff like with Chael. Chael's channel's been growing. It seems like his videos turn into topics. So, like, he was talking about GSP, and it's like, again, I know we talk about it again, but I'm going to keep saying it. Like, you guys, stop mentioning GSP. Just let the man actually retire. Even though I do think the more people say his name, I keep believing like this man might actually come back for one more. Like I know Javier, I believe it was Javier said that he would be down for the GSP Khabib fight. We all know Ali, uh, Khabib's manager. We all know he's all in on it. So that's just another thing. The circulation of GSP's name post retirement. But anything else sort of on your mind at all?
Well, with the GSP thing, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. But if Khabib was to get past Tony Ferguson, I would be 100% down for that fight. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if GSP can get that low. You know, he just won the middleweight title a few years back. I know he's been on this new crazy diet where he does like intermittent fasting, but for like long stretches of time. So I think he's actually pretty light right now and in really good shape. So I'm sure if anyone can do it, it's George St. Pierre. And man, if he did come back and beat Khabib to win the lightweight title, that's I mean I know it's the thing that people say every other fight card, but I mean he's the GOAT for sure. He might be already, but yeah, that would be just in a fantasy world. If you had to choose right now, would you pick who would you pick in that fight between Khabib and GSP?
I just got GSP. I've seen him get out of too many. I've just seen him get out of too many bad positions. I've seen him get through. I mean, to me, he's Iron Man. 3 generations of welterweights, and then to retire, come back and take out the middleweight king. I mean, and then give the belt back again. I mean, Khabib is going to have to actually get him out of there for me to believe that it can be done. And the way you can say, oh, the way that doesn't really scare me. I think if it were to happen, ultimately it would happen at a catchweight. But my initial reaction is GSP. Like, do I really see a situation where Khabib is gonna maul and out wrestle GSP for 5 straight rounds? I don't know about that. I could see him do it for one, maybe two, but GSP's jiu-jitsu is underrated as well. We just hardly ever see it because he's rarely on his back. But like that's the layers of excellence we're working with here if we're talking about GSP. So I would favor him heavily in that fight. How about you?
I don't know exactly how because I haven't thought about it until right now, like how it would be done. But yeah, I think GSP would win. It's hard to go against to like you said, man. The only people that ever beat him were early in his career, and he avenged all his losses. So I mean, he's really when people talk about the greatest of all time, I know he's mentioned, but it's kind of like statistically wise. I mean, he really should be considered the greatest of all time. Like what he was able to do, he's one of the only guys to retire on top still twice. I mean, I know it's talked about, but he's definitely for sure one of the greatest of all time. And especially if he came back and won another meaningful fight, whether it's Khabib or like Usman or something like that would be nuts. But I don't know. I kind of think it's cool that he retired on top again. What's the point of coming back out of retirement and risking some like embarrassing or devastating loss? You know that might damage your legacy. why not just stay retired and looked at as one of the greatest ever?
Yeah, it's just again, I'm gonna keep saying it, guys. Stop mentioning GSP's name. Like, I'm good with it. Like, the man's retired twice now. Leave him be. But I guess another little topic. Joanna has come out and said that she was going through, she was going through it with her ex at the time, and her guy, her fiance, was cheating on her, and that she basically said that she attributes that as one of the reasons as to why she lost to Rose Namajunas when she lost during that 2 year stint, and that where she had to fight her back to back, and the trolls are out. The trolls are got a lot of people saying that doesn't make sense, so that's irresponsible to come out and say she won't give Rose credit. What do you make of it? Does she have a point? Why mention it now? Where do you sort of rest on this case?
Yeah, I mean, what a ballsy guy to cheat on Joanna. I mean, that's a scary person to cheat on, but um, I think it's honest. I mean, I know she might be using an excuse, or people look at it she's using an excuse. I mean, there is no excuse. Rose beat her twice. Like Rose will always get the credit for that. She knocked her out and then beat her over 5 rounds. There's no more. There's nothing more Rose can do to prove that she's better. That's just it. But you got to think something like that does affect her performance. I mean, it would have to. But I'm not saying that she would have won otherwise or it was the factor. It's definitely something going on. I think she was being honest about that, but I don't totally get the timing, like why it's coming out now. But I guess because she's on somewhat of a winning streak now, so she wants to maybe kind of take away some of those past losses. But I don't think she'll ever truly be able to do that unless she beats Rose, and I don't know why that fight would be made again. So I don't know. It was honest.
Yeah, I honestly, I believe her. Like I know, like this is MMA, so it's like, why are we sitting here, talking about this and all that? But look, she made it a talking point. She's a high profile fighter, so I feel like we gotta take it serious. So I'm gonna try and take it as serious as I can. I absolutely believe her. If you've ever had to actually deal with infidelity, it throws off everything that has to do with your life completely. The idea that it threw her off for years, I buy it. It makes sense to me. Um,
Especially when you're
now
talking about
let
Luana, whose whole thing is confidence. Like she knows she's the best in the world, and then dealing with someone cheating on her. I mean, that's got to do something to your confidence. So, yeah,
yeah, you want
I
to
think
talk about something that could take your confidence away? That's
right.
definitely up there. Yeah, and another thing with me, one of the big things that I sort of took away with that is, and again, anyone, you can easily just reach out to me and let me know if you feel like I'm just completely off, or Austin. Like I obviously want to know what you think about it, but I do think in a guy sort of way, at least given what we know, which is not a lot because obviously she doesn't have to come out and explain it, but just sitting here as someone looking completely from the outside, I'm like, oh, well, that explains why in the MMA fans were going crazy because she got a boob job. Like that's why she was doing things like that. That's why the more suggestive pictures of her have gotten ratcheted up a notch. If you follow her on various social media platforms, it's like maybe that can explain the behavior. Like I know one of the pictures that got circulated of her over the past week, and she put it out there and was tagged in it and all. So it's not like this is all like we're finding. No, it was like, but like she's hanging out with adult actresses and things like that. So it's like if you get cheated on and you really had to deal with some tough times, maybe that can explain some of the behavior, at least from a fan. Like as a fan, at least that's how I can write it off. Like, oh, that's why she was doing all that, or that's why she's acting this way. It's not because she's feeling herself because of the money and this. No, it's because she's trying to get her mojo back. She's trying to get some of that swag back because she was dealing with a dickhead.
Yeah, and I think that's a dope way to do it. I know, like you said, a lot of people were like, it seemed like a real like change of character and change of pace, but sometimes that's what you need to do to get out of a slump. So kudos to her. I think it's awesome. She's probably going to be fighting Zhang for the title next. So we could really see. if she's like in a different mind state now and is more focused on being the champ again.
Yeah, I understand why people would come out and say that, and like, oh, you're trying to take away from what Rose Namajunas accomplished. I get that angle of it, but this thought that she's just putting it out there just to just deflect. No, it's like, if first of all, this is not like,
Okay.
even in saying it, it's like no one might, you might not want to put your business out there, but like I feel like most people, or at least some people out there, they can relate to her because you either did it or you had it done to you. So this thought that you, some of you fans have gone through this, yeah, you're just gonna look at her and think because she's a fighter, just had nothing to do with that. That was one of those small moments where I'm like, the MMA fan ignorance and groupthink is strong.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. But I mean, that's it's basically what happens anytime any high profile MMA fighter does an interview. I mean, half the people understand it and realize that it's a human. Half the people hate it and say horrible things online. I think that's just part of the culture now.
Austin, we have a Conor McGregor update. Do we? It's not really an update. I just to update because I just Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh came out and said, "Let me pull this up because this could go one way or the other." He said that basically he decides how hard he wants to train because he knows more about fighting than the rest of us put together. It's just referencing to the training. Now, do we read too much into this? Is it a big thing? No deal at all. You got any thoughts? Like, what? Anything?
Uh, it kind of makes sense in the aspect of that. I think from what it seems like in interviews and stuff, Kavanaugh and McGregor's relationship hasn't always been like solid. Like there's times throughout that career, and I think through that slump where they kind of weren't seeing eye to eye. And I think that started from uh, comments Kavanaugh made about McGregor in the media about like his weaknesses or something to do with that. So I think this is kind of an overcorrection of that, like uh, saying that he decides everything because he knows so much more about MMA than or about fighting than everybody else. Like I guess that, I mean that's very honest and nice of a coach to say, but I don't know. That seems, if he's in control, that kind of seems. I mean, why does he need like them around? I don't know. It just that seems, it's kind of an alarming statement because he has no one like guiding his training, guiding his techniques, like what he's gonna do, this game planning. They're leaving that all up to him. And I mean, he is a master. I mean, maybe that's the way, that's what suits best for him. But that's historically, that's not what we've seen in the sport. The people like that have historically not done well. Even all time greats like John Jones, Anderson Silva, they all have coaches that they rely on for things and for knowledge and trust in their game planning and stuff like that. So it's kind of a weird thing. I think it's just something to further boost the confidence of McGregor. I mean, if he needs it. I mean, but Kavanaugh has been nothing but like kind of gushing over McGregor this fight camp, saying like he's back better than ever. This is the best I've ever seen him. All this typical stuff that Kavanaugh didn't used to really say back in the past that he's saying now. So I don't know. I mean, we're gonna find out. Maybe all of that is true, and maybe that's maybe why they've clashed in the past is that Conor didn't like being structured by someone else, and maybe this is the happy medium and the best way to go. It just seems kind of weird.
What's up with the interviews? Like, I know he did the interview with Ariel Helwani, and it just was PR fluff, and then he's uploading interviews with the Mac Life, and to be honest, like I didn't even watch him, so like I understand that anyone listening to this, you're probably like, oh, you guys aren't going to talk about the biggest thing. Well, like if you did and you have any reaction and there's anything that you took away from it, I would love to hear it. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to hear you get asked the hard questions by independent media and had them uploaded, just like how you used to do, McGregor. What's the tune change? What happened? Why are you doing interviews with people that are questionable at least? Like why? Why are you doing that? And it just seems like you're dodging it. And again, anyone that knows and they're like and can lay out some legal ramifications as to why this man got booked for a fight and why they let it all go through, then okay, I'll feel good about it, but I'll still say like I still don't fully feel all in on this fight, and I think that's why some of the PR and some of the buzz for this has been a little bit muzzled because there is this giant elephant in the room that he doesn't seem like he wants to touch at all. Do we? And again, like to circle back around to Kavanaugh, it just feels like he's saying, "Look, if this man goes out there and gets head kicked in the first round because he did something sloppy, that's not on me." It just feels like to me he is slowly but surely distancing himself from Conor. That's just what it feels like. So I guess what do you think about that? But then what do you also think about the elephant in the room or the lack thereof?
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. That Kavanaugh could just be hedging his bets in case the worst happens. So yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. That's why the interviews have came out from the Mac Live, which is literally Connor's media team. That if the reports were true, were the ones that let him into the arena. So when they threw the dolly at Khabib and them, so it's not. I mean, that's not exactly a uninterested third party. I mean, that's his own group there. Um, and I do think that's because he knows he'll get asked about that. I mean, even when ESPN, Brett Okamoto, who is in good with the UFC, even when he interviewed Dana White, he brought that up. So if he gets interviewed by an actual media source, I think they will bring it up. So I think that's why he hasn't, uh, as of late or yet for this fight. I think it's gonna. I mean, unless they just keep him away from the media fight week the same way that they did when Ronda Rousey came back. I mean, someone's gonna have to ask him that question, and if he gets it from the media, I have faith that they will. So,
Real quick before you finish the rest of that point, for anyone wondering why I said some questionable people, in my opinion, and again, you can find me on Twitter at Nixon_speaks, and my email address is I'll post it if anyone truly wants to get a hold of me. If I'm referring to Brett Akamoto and Ariel Helwani, I haven't heard you mention anything about the UFC lawsuit and the findings that came out. Anytime a fighter trashes ESPN during your interviews, you are quick to change the subject, and ESPN does not upload it in full after it's been originally aired, and you guys would crucify any other media outlet if they've done it, and you stay completely silent. You guys are the two biggest figureheads as far as MMA media is concerned, and like people that have somewhat of a mainstream bleed over in some capacity. And you guys have stayed completely silent over the last year, or in my opinion, since you guys signed over to ESPN. And again, if anyone wants to dispute that with me, please hit me up and let me know where I'm wrong. But please
no,
continue
yeah, I
your
agree,
thought.
and that it kind of gives you a little insight as to why did they get how they got those big platforms and the big contracts and things, because they're willing to just play ball and do what is best for the company that they work for, which isn't exactly journalism or actual reporting. That's just being a figurehead. That's being Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless. That's not being an actual reporter. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying. But like I was saying, fight week, if they put him in front of the media for a press conference or something, I gotta think there's going to be some independent media source that's going to be there and that's going to ask him about that. It'll be interesting to see on fight week if anything comes out, because I don't I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC had someone go up to the media and told them not to ask about that. But if they told them that, we would probably hear about that. So yeah, I don't think he wants to be asked about it. I don't think the UFC wants him to be asked about it because they probably are worried about whatever answer he'll give. He can't get too much into it or whatever. So, but I mean, we're gonna find out. That'll be one of the more interesting things about Fight Week.
Yeah, to me that's just interesting. I just feel weird about it because no one's coming out and saying anything. It's just like the days are getting closer, and we just don't have any clarification. If the ruling comes down, the middle of fight week, then like I don't know what that means for the fight. And because everyone on the UFC side and Conor McGregor's side is being completely tight-lipped about it, it's not it's not crazy to speculate because they're not coming out and stamping out any of the fires in the form of telling us what the status is of the situation, if there is one at all. other than the fact that his team put out the blanket statement in response to what the New York Times initially reported. And I guess, hey, if that's all they want to put out there and that's truly all they have to say about it, then I guess that is what it is. But it just doesn't feel like it's stamped out at all, and it just feels weird. And all of his interviews and on it's just falling flat. So I guess I'll just ask, like, what are you making about this UFC 246 card? The first time we have a UFC event this year, that's what it's going to be. So what are you feeling about the buzz? It says as that card gets a little bit closer, like, where do you feel like it's at? Has the Conor McGregor effect fully hit, or is it going to be a slow build? Where do you think that is, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't. At least to me, it doesn't feel like it's fully hit yet. I think we'll. That's another one that'll probably be answered come fight week or maybe the weekend before. Once the embedded start coming out, once people start knowing, like, okay, this is Conor fights this week, then maybe we'll see. That's usually when things start picking up for his fight cards. I think a lot of it will be dependent on, like, what the UFC does to promote it, like whether they're going to have those two in a press conference together, and how Conor acts in the press conference could play a big factor on how excited the outside, the mainstream get interested in this. But I think it doesn't seem that crazy right now. But I think come fight week it'll start to feel more like a McGregor fight.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I just worry about it because you never know with these things. Like, as a fan, sometimes it's hard to keep track of perspective because we could sit here and think like, oh, the fight week stuff is really boiling up, and it could just be muzzled in the mainstream public. Those are the guys ESPN really wants to hit, and that's why they do things like cut Cerrone out of the wildcard weekend promo, and I suspect they won't really change it up until the fight actually goes down, and they're really building this thing around them, so it just feels like, of course, they're going to just keep these things quiet, but because of that, like the New York Times, for instance, let's say they want to put a piece out together for him, which, would drive some views and some outside interest. Once players like that get involved, are they even going to get access to him? The real type of access, or is it just going to be all fluff pieces and little sound bites here and there? So it's just, I don't know. As we get closer, it's just one of those things I can't help but feel uneasy about it because it just feels like, again, it's the elephant in the room. No one seems to want to properly bring it up and talk about it one way or the other. So I guess until we know, it's going to continue to be a talking point. But hopefully nothing goes down and they don't have to play shuffleboard with the rest of the card.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think what we'll see is, I think media-wise, they'll handle it the same way they did Rousey at UFC 207 when she was fighting Nunes, where you didn't see her until the weigh-ins. I think that's what you'll see from Conor. You might see him on the embeddeds doing like the workouts and stuff, but I don't think they're not going to bring him to media day, and I don't know if they'll do a press conference because I think they are worried about people asking about that because the mainstream attention the eyes are going to be on that week. So I don't think they want, because I'm sure a lot of people that aren't hardcore MMA fans don't even know about this sexual assault case. So I don't think they want that brought up. But we'll see.
Outside of that, it's definitely going to be interesting to see just from a PR perspective how this whole thing ends up getting handled. So I guess before we get out of here, is there anything else, any other little topics you feel like we missed, or anything else you want to just get out there when it comes to the world of MMA?
No, I think we've got it all. What's going on there? We've covered most of it. Nothing comes to mind right now. Just looking forward to these weeks to pass by fast. We can get back into like the busy schedule of MMA.
Yeah, same here. I know it's a little bit slow right now, but there's always interesting little tidbits, stuff like that here and there. So as always, we'll keep you guys updated as things sort of fall out. But I guess before we get out of here, one last little thing I wanted to mention is KB Knockout. They're a kickboxing. They do some MMA here and there, but they're based out of Japan, and they're having a card on February 20th, and I'm not sure if it's the Saitama Arena or it's very hard to get honest translations to stuff, so I'll have to double check that. But KB Knockout, they're having a card February 20th this year, and I'm looking forward to that one because they're, you know, a little bit small, but as far as the rest of their shows are concerned up until this point, I can tell they're really trying to make this one stick, and they have some prospects on it that are interesting. I'll give some thoughts and some breakdown as it gets closer, but for me, I guess that's my little under the radar thing. KB Knockout, that card's coming together and it's going down February 20th.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Alright, so before we get out of here, Austin, let the people know where they can find you. Social media, websites, anything like that.
Yeah, on Twitter at MMAPanic, and the website is MMAPanic.com.
Alright, you heard it there. You can find Austin on Twitter at MMAPanic, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at Nixon_speaks, and I'll see you guys later on in the week.